What's up everyone, I'm Dave Mech and welcome to another video. And in this video I'm going to show you the Implexus by Majella Audio. I just have to say this is possibly one of the most beautiful synthesizers I've seen. The design choices are so spot on. It has the brushed aluminium kind of thing. With the chosen dials, it just looks very slick and inviting. Very modern, futuristic, and at the same time there's some retro vibe in there. But it also sounds great. So let's begin with a basic sound and go through the panel options. I'll do a quick run through what we actually see here on the front panel. We have a complex oscillator right here with a lot of dials. It is a voltage controlled sine wave actually. Very basic, but we can add harmonics to morph it into a square wave or a sawtooth, which is cool. We have these beautiful LEDs, by the way, that show us the depth, of course, but also the modulation. And also when it is in the middle, like so. Or if I move it here, it goes off. And then it increases again, like so. So it turns off and then on again, so we know that this is the middle. And this is what the sine waves sound like. Then we have a wave folder. Beautiful. And I must say I have a little bit of reverb, actually quite a bit of reverb, but a very short one. See? It just gives a little bit more room to the synth that I think translates better through YouTube, so that's why. But of course I'll also let you hear the dry signal eventually. Then we have linear FM that uses the basic generator as the modulator operator and the complex oscillator as the carrier. Then we have different controls that we will go through when we cover the complex oscillator. We have a basic generator, which is the second oscillator, which is very traditional. We also have a sub oscillator that you just heard. And we have the basic generator. Change the octaves, which we can do on the complex generator as well. And we have our basic sawtooth, sine wave, and also square. Very, very fat sound. Then we have the filter, which is beautiful. I'm just going to show you with the basic generator set to sawtooth. Sounds really lovely. Bit of resonance. You can hear that the low end is not dropping when I increase the resonance, which is great. Beautiful filter, really, really cool. We can also switch it to high pass. Almost get those vocal tones, right? Very cool. So, just a note, I'm not a keyboardist, so it's going to be very basic what I do on this keyboard. But hey, you will get an idea what the synth sounds like. That's the most important thing. So, then we have two LFOs that we can route to various things. We cannot route it to the filler cutoff, which is a little bit unfortunate. That's like really an important thing for me. However, on the back we have CV in and outputs, and we can actually output an LFO and bring it into a Eurorec system, but you can also route it back into the filter. Sans the depth then. But hey, still nice. I would recommend getting a little Eurorec system with a VCA to extend this Implexus, because it's very nice that we can do that, of course. In this video, I'm going to focus and stick with what we see in the front panel, though, because there's already a ton of sound to explore. So, that is the filter. I'll get into that a little bit more later. Of course, we have the mixer here. We can mix the basic generator with the sub. Woohoo! Seriously, this filter is really great. So fat sound with only those two, and then we have the complex oscillator, of course, and set to square wave, and that sub osc. And a dry sound. Still very fat. Okay. So, and then we can of course blend in the basic generator as well, and we get a it's just insane. So, you can hear that there's a little bit of detuning. Well, enter the tuner. We can actually have a tuner here. So if I set this to basic, we can actually tune the basic oscillator. Yeah, there you go. Of course, get a little bit of a vibrato going. We have dedicated controls for that. And a little bit of glide. Oh, it's a bit flat again. We can tune it. And then, yeah, you can see that the vibrato is doing its thing. And of course, we can tune the complex generator as well. So turn the vibrato off, of course. Now switch to the complex generator. Make sure that it's on. And the rest is off. And we can actually tune this. It's a bit sharp, so bring this down. There we go. And now if I introduce the basic generator, that's lovely, right? So you get a lot of control over the tuning. And now we can detune if we want. Turn this down a little bit. There we go. We can introduce some vibrato. That is a smooth sound. And of course, glide. You also have a pitch envelope, which again uses the mod envelope. Right? Actually pretty cool. You can make some great percussion with that. So that is basically yeah, me sort of veering off into different parts of the synthesizer. So we got the two LFOs, which I'll cover a little bit more deeply later. We have the mod envelope, which is also routed to different parts of the synthesizer, just as the LFOs. The LFOs you will find on the complex oscillator, on the harmonics. So we have the envelope generator and LFO 1 amount. So here we have the LFO amount for the folder. Currently using LFO 1. You can also see this reflected on the lettering, which is really nice. We can also switch this to LFO2. And you can see that we have synced options, 1, 1, 3/4, half, third, and a fourth. You can also turn this off and just have free running, and it goes really, really fast. Okay, so LFOs, right? Also envelope amount for the folder. So let me turn off the LFO amount for the folder and just use the mod envelope for this. And together with the filter, you can hear the punch that it gives. It's a very nice envelope generator. Very snappy. Sometimes envelope generators are a bit slowish or sluggish, as it should say, with the attack. Not this one. But it's also not clicky. It's really musical. And that's kind of the thing that you will see with this synthesizer. Everything is tuned so nicely in a very musical way. It kind of shows that they started out with Eurorack modules and then built this thing, which is crazy. I think that really helped them fine-tuning. Like they have a filter built, they have a couple of other modules that they built, and this is sort of a collection of that and fine-tuned to make one instrument. And you can really hear that they've been doing this for a while. So last but not least, we have a delay, which is a great touch. And we can sync the delay, but we can also unsync it. So you have your preset syncs here, basically, and a feed, regen it's called. And it's great. And of course we can turn this off and change the timing ourselves. And it goes quite slow. So you can definitely use this as sort of a way to play over it. So if I turn this up high, and a dry wet knob, of course. So that's the delay. I love it. It's cool that is added to this monosynth. So let's move on. On the back we have a patch bay and stuff. Clock output, LFO2 output, basic oscillator output, mod envelope output. And for the inputs we have the gate and voltage per octave trigger, and we have inputs for the complex oscillator and for the basic oscillator, as well as velocity, which is nice. And then we have the harmonic wave shaper, folder, bias and cutoff that we can also modulate. We can also directly output the LFO2 and put it into the filter cutoff, for instance. Better to have some sort of VCA in between so you can control the depth of modulation, but it's still nice touch. We have a phones output, so you can use this on your lap on the couch actually. And the left and right output, because the delay is stereo, and use TRS cables, which is advised in the manual, and we get MIDI in and out And the USB port for USB MIDI, which is a nice touch as well. So we have this clock section on the front panel. We can have an external analog clock here coming in. And we have tap tempo. That's quite nice. So one more shot of this beautiful thing. The other way around, it also looks great. Just, yeah, very nice. And you can also see that it reflects light very nicely. So a little bit of that. All right, so now that we've covered pretty much all the general functions, we're going to dive deeper into all the elements a little bit more. So let's start again with tuning the complex oscillator. Turn on the vibrato and the glide. There we go. Okay. Basic. Even with this, just the sine wave, it's a beautiful sound. So I'm just using the complex oscillator. We can change the harmonics, right, from square wave to sawtooth, but I'm going to do something I do a lot with sound design, is I start with something very basic, then I start, in this case, wavefolding and FMing and that sort of thing. And after that, I'm going to change the waveform. For now, I'm going to leave it at a simple sine wave, so you can really hear what's going on. So let's start with the linear FM. We can actually use the basic generator as our modulator. So this is now the operator, is the modulator. This is our carrier. Changing the octaves. And also the waveform. Pretty nice, right? So now if I change the waveform, very nice FM sounds. And then I can add the sub-osc. And you can hear that the osc is following the pitch of the complex oscillator, just so you know. So even with these basic building blocks, you already get so much range. And a very, very consistent fat tone. So that is the linear FM side of things. And of course you can, with the fine control of the basic oscillator, you can really go nuts. Turn down the sub-osc. Like so. Bring in the sub-osc. Get that fundamental pointed out, basically. Then let's get into the envelope depth amount for the harmonics, which is quite self-explanatory. It's bipolar, so we can have a negative depth, basically inverting the envelope. As you can see, turn this to sine wave again. So now it goes to the square, or just positive envelope, the regular one, goes to sawtooth. And yeah, you can actually, that's the cool thing about these two dials, the harmonics, you could see them as sort of a filter in itself, right? Because we're adding harmonics. So it's as if I go from the sawtooth, it's like closing a filter, right? Get some very detailed tones this way. And see, now this is where the synth really shines, is that because of that fat sine wave, if I modulate the harmonics coming in a little bit late, you get this onset of a very heavy sub from the sine wave and then the harmonics that are added after that. Very heavy sound. Love it. So then we have the LFO1 amount. So let's keep this like we have it now and just dial in the LFO amount. I'm going to set the rate quite low. We have different waveforms. We have random. You can hear it. Or square wave. Let me turn down the envelope depth so we get a better idea of the random waveform. You can actually see now that LED is showing what it does with the LFO. Pretty cool, right? Square wave. Sawtooth. Sine wave. And ramp. Ramp down, sine wave, ramp up, I should say. So, then we have fixed. These are synced. So if you want it synced, it's really easy as that. It's very performance friendly because you have all these fixed numbers for the syncing. You have all these dials that you can play around with in a live situation. It's really what you see is what you get. It's really great for that. So if I have it synced to the Digitech, which I'll do later, we can, create very cool rhythmic patches by syncing these LFOs. So. The LFO is, of course, bipolar in this case. So the dial goes from 0 to 10, right? Whereas with an envelope in general, it's unipolar, but in this case we get this nice addition of being able to go negative or positive. So then let's go to the wave folder, because this is where things get so much fun. And we can go from gnarly or round, to very gnarly. It's the typical wave folder sound. And again, we have an envelope depth, and in this case, it's unipolar. So let's set the envelope depth a little lower. And then we have an LFO here that routes to the wave folder amount. So I set this to LFO1 again, and let's turn this down a bit slower and do the random thing again, and increase this. You will see that it starts to randomize. This is a sound that I really like. And you can see that the envelope and the LFO are working together here. You can also get your dubstep. That brings me to a point that I kind of understand the design choice to not have an LFO routed to the filter, because it kind of focuses your attention to work with the complex oscillator, because this also sounds a little bit like a filter, right? And we have the LFOs to work with here. So that is kind of the thing about the synthesizer, is that they really designed it in such a way that your focus is on the complex oscillator. It's really at the heart of the synthesizer. So let's now go into that. I'll twist and change the harmonics a little bit so you get an idea of how complex, how quickly you can go to completely mental only using these things. Fast LFO. Let's cover part 2 of this complex oscillator. This is where things become pretty wild and interesting and beautiful. The thing is, you can really go overboard with this and it will always sound like farts and heavily distorted and sharp and destroyed waveforms, which is fun, but there's also a lot of intricacy found within this oscillator if we dial things in slowly. So I hope I can sort of show you that. How fat the sound is and how many interesting harmonics are going to be generated by changing some interesting stuff here. Again, we have the folder and we went over the envelope depth and the LFO depth, switches between LFO 1 and 2 for the folder itself. But we can also modulate the folder with the basic oscillator. So this is, again, you can sort of see that this basic oscillator is there to layer, right? We can use it as an extra basic layer to filter away and stuff. But really, it's a modulation source. FM, linear FM, but also modulating the folder with this basic generator. So let's increase the oscillator mod here. And I'm just gonna go extreme, set this to the max, set this to sine wave, and start setting the octaves lower and lower. There you go. Nice, right? You can hear what this does to the sound. This is just sort of a low frequency oscillator now. But if we turn this fine up, sort of change the speed of that low frequency oscillator. And the cool thing is, of course, that this tracks. So this actually tracks with whatever notes I'm playing, so it keeps it very steady. That's the interesting thing about this. So when we set the octave higher, when we get into audio, real audio range, like so, you can hear that it tracks. Let's turn the folder up. You can of course change the depth of this oscillator mod. And you can immediately hear what I mean by harmonics, right? Almost starts to sound like a nice Yamaha FM keys, right? So let's try if we can get it into that range by using the envelope mount. Make a plucky key sound. You can see that you can do some very subtle stuff as well. And then use the filter to make it even more subtle. Almost get a sort of Rhodes, sort of, right? Let's get back to the drones. So if you dial in things like this, this is where that it tracks really has a cool effect. So you can just hold a note, dial in a cool sound, using the oscillation mod. Like so, and have a track. So that is the oscillation mod that will modulate the wave folder using the basic generator. Now, then we get to the bias function, and this is another universe of the synthesizer that we can get into. The bias section basically allows us to clip and fold the signal asymmetrically. So with no bias, we fold the signal in a symmetric way. Meaning that if we have a waveform, it goes up and down in amplitude. And with this folder, we clip it and it starts morphing, but symmetrically. So for the upper portion as well as for the lower portion. And with the bias, we actually start introducing asymmetric wave folding. So we get even more extreme sounds. So if we play the low tones, get some really crazy tones. Look at that. Now if we introduce that modulation from the basic generator on top of that, complex movements in the waveform. Like if we're using multiple LFOs to change the shape and everything, which we're not. We're just setting the bias differently and only using another oscillator to modulate the wave folder. We get all these complex interactions. Having said that, we also can use this basic generator to modulate the bias function, adding another layer of complexity and making this synth really scream. Now if we introduce LFO amount, which again is this LFO amount is for the modulating the bias with the LFOs. So I'm going to set this to LFO 1. I'm going to turn off the oscillator mod. Can create things like this. A little bit of oscillator mod. And listen to the complexity of the waveforms that we're creating now. And this is just without using any filter. That's kind of the point, right? Now increasing the folder. Listen to that movement. So let's keep it subtle. Beautiful harmonics. And now let's change the waveform. Slowly to sawtooth with this wave shaper. And now square wave. Okay, this needs a bucket load of reverb, that's for sure. Okay, now let's change the waveform to random of the LFO. Also going to introduce a little bit of chorus, because this synth really likes effects, as every synth does, but Implexus especially, because of the complex nature of all the tones that we're generating. Using any effects is just great. And also the delay itself. So let's sync this. And also sync the delay. Set it to a different... You can create drones like this. And note, not using the filter at all. Just using the bias. And now just playing around with harmonics. Man. So, let me show you what it sounds like without any reverb and chorus. Still sounds incredible, right? So, that is the complex oscillator. It's awesome. We're going to look at the filter and a slightly deeper look into the mod envelope and the combination and how they sound. Because, yeah, this filter is really, really wonderful, I think. And this envelope is also very nice because we have a loop function, and I'll show you that. And the sound of the envelope is, like I told you before, earlier in the video, very snappy. So let's first create a simple patch that just has a lot of harmonics, like so. There we go. Envelope amount in the middle. Also works wonderful for dubstep and stuff. So let's have a look at the mod AG. So this is the filter. Resonance doesn't self-oscillate, but very near. Every knob and range is very, very usable. So it's all in a very nice kind of range where it's sort of there's always sweet spot if you get the note sync well enough. So even at the highest resonance, it sounds lovely. So let's have a look at the mod envelope. I'm going to close this filter a little bit and turn this up. And we're going to see how snappy this is. And I'd say very. And it's not clicky at 0 attack. It's just the right amount of punch to it, right? It's lovely. Very musical, very snappy. And then with that delay. And I'm going to add a little bit of reverb now. We can loop this envelope. Basically what happens is it loops the attack and decay stages, and depending on the decay stage and the attack phase, of course, it changes the loop time. So now you can see it loops. And if I shorten this, the decay time, of course, will start to loop faster. The same goes for the attack. And it goes into audio range, basically. And you can make some very gnarly, crazy sounds this way. Watch. Moving on, we have a velocity on each of these envelopes. And it's actually very nice to have this because it makes your patch so much more expressive. This determines the depth of all the envelope depths basically. I'll make it a bit more obvious. Let's turn off loop. So I'm gonna set this to the max and also this to the max. And now if I play something very softly and now very loud, that makes for a very expressive patch. Very nice, right? And it also works on the amp envelope, of course. So if I set this to 0, it's always 127 velocity. So loud. But if I turn this all the way up to 10, I can play very soft and very loud, adding another bit of expression. Now the cool thing is, basically we're modulating the amp volume, right, with this. But there's also a CV input to do this as well. So there's a CV input for the amp volume, so you can actually have amplitude modulation on top of what is going on here. But you could also have an expression, wave expression there, adding an LFO or an envelope or velocity from a Eurorec system, a sequencer, for instance. So this whole section is about pitch, right? We have glide, we have vibrato, and we have a pitch envelope, which also uses the mod envelope. So we can make very punchy sounds. Also loop this, of course. So you have some mono synths that sound fine and fat. And then sometimes you hear something coming from a module from Eurorec, which is mind-blowing sometimes. This is kind of that sound, right? It's just that really huge... It really has that huge sound. Okay, so that is basically the envelope section, especially the looping. It's just, keeps me busy for days. So now it's time for some more audio examples. This Digitect was here not for nothing, and I have a little bit of compression going on, and I'm gonna show you what this thing can do in a context of some techno, and also connect a beautiful reverb and see what we can do in terms of drones. Here we go. Alright, for this patch, it's again techno, of course. I just really like techno. This is an interesting patch. I'm using the sub oscillator this time to beef up the sound. And I got this basic generator modulating the folder. And it creates this, because of the fine-tuning, sort of a almost, yeah, phasey flanger effect. And I got inverted envelope depth, or yeah, negative envelope depth on the filter. 0 attack and a little bit of decay time. And then I've opened up the sustain, creating this very snappy, nice sounding round snappiness to the filter. I can change that snappiness with the attack now. So what does that sound like in context? So for this patch, I started out with trying to sort of get a dubstep kind of thing going. And yeah, that's quite difficult because we only have 2 oscillators that we can detune from each other. But we can use the folder to create all kinds of interesting harmonics. So that's what I did. Added a little bit of bias and a bit of LFO modulation. Very slow modulation, as you can see. Both LFOs. And the harmonics are being modulated. The folder is being modulated by the LFO1. LFO2 is modulating the bias very slowly. And then it's just me playing around. Again, I'm using a negative envelope amount on the filter because I just like that kind of sound, and this sort of has a reverse effect that I kind of like. But I'm going to switch it around while I'm playing so you can sort of hear how quickly you can change the entire vibe of the thing. for this patch, I'm going to just drone. Got the Night verb here from Erica Synths, and the Implexus has this nice drone button. So if I push that, it just starts to drone. And the level can be set, of course, with the envelope. But the other controls, other than the release time, don't really do anything, of course, because it's droning. But if I turn off the drone, we'll go into the release time. So you can do some interesting, cool things with that. Basically, the other envelope is kind of useless because nothing is triggering it. Then I'm just gonna drone. Currently just have a simple sine wave with a little bit of vibrato. And let's just start with some FM. So that is the Implexus. And there's so much more to explore. It feels almost infinite. There's so much nice harmonics to be explored. So I might add some other jam videos where I explore this a little bit more. But I thought this showcases the massive sound this thing has in it. And it's just such a joy to play because everything is on the panel and every knob is useful. That is just the big takeaway I get from this synth. So beautiful design, beautiful parameter control, beautiful focused sound this synth has. So hope you like this video. Subscribe for more. Of course, hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload videos if you like this kind of stuff. So enjoy this synth if you're going to get it. If you decide you do, you can use the affiliate link in the description. That way you don't pay anything more, but a small commission will go to me so I can keep making videos like this. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.